안녕하세요.
The rain had ceased, but the air still carried the dampness of the storm that had passed. Ha-Yoon gazed out at the illuminated city from her apartment window, feeling the weight of the decision she had to make. The past had held her captive, but the future lay ahead, waiting for her to take a step into the unknown. That night, Ha-Yoon arranged a meeting with her father. In a private and luxurious restaurant, the two sat across from each other like adversaries before a battle. The powerful man who had always controlled her destiny looked at her with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "So, Ha-Yoon, what is it you have to say?" he asked, pouring himself a glass of wine. She took a deep breath before responding. "I know everything, father. I know about Namjoon, about the manipulations, about how you destroyed lives to keep your empire intact." Her father paused, the glass still halfway to his lips. For a moment, his expression did not show surprise, but rather a faint, condescending smile. "And what do you intend to do with this information, my daughter?" Ha-Yoon straightened her shoulders, keeping her gaze firm. "I intend to make my own decisions, and that includes you no longer dictating what is best for me." The man let out a small chuckle, but his eyes narrowed. "And Namjoon? What does he mean in all of this?" She hesitated for an instant before answering. "He means that, for the first time, I have a choice, and I choose not to live a life built on fear and lies." Her father took a slow sip of his wine before setting the glass down on the table. "If you walk out that door now, there is no turning back, Ha-Yoon." She smiled faintly. "I know." She rose to her feet, picked up her purse, and without looking back, left the restaurant. For the first time in her life, she felt truly free. Outside, Namjoon was waiting for her. He didn't ask anything, only watched her with hopeful eyes. Ha-Yoon smiled, and he knew she had made her choice. "Was it hard?" Namjoon asked softly as they walked under the bright city lights. She sighed, feeling a mixture of relief and fear. "It was liberating." Namjoon smiled, opening an umbrella to shield her from the last remnants of the rain. "And now, what do we do?" Ha-Yoon looked at him, her decision firmer than ever. "We build our own path. No lies, no manipulations." The two walked together through the streets of Seoul, leaving the ghosts of the past behind. The city shimmered with the promise of a new beginning, and Ha-Yoon knew that, for the first time, she was living for herself. The night stretched on in a comfortable silence between them. They stopped at a small cafe, a place they used to frequent years ago when they were just two young souls dreaming of an uncertain future. "Funny how some things never change," Ha-Yoon remarked, looking around. Namjoon chuckled. "Yes, but others change completely." She picked up her cup of coffee and watched the steam rise. "We still have a long road ahead, Namjoon." He nodded. "I know, but this time, we're not alone." Ha-Yoon smiled. For the first time, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The past had once torn them apart, but now fate had given them a second chance. And this time, it would be different. The hall of Kang Corporation exuded power and sophistication, with glass walls reflecting the vibrant city outside. Song Ji-ah strode through the corridors with firm steps, the heels of her shoes echoing against the polished floors. Her determined gaze made it clear she was not there to bow to anyone. Across the meeting room, Kang Min-ho analyzed documents without lifting his head. His impassive face, always cold and calculating, mirrored the reputation he had built over the years. The CEO was feared and respected by everyone in the company, but at that moment, his expression hardened as he heard the firm voice echoing through the room. "Mr. Kang, I didn't come here to apologize. I came to prove that my dismissal was a mistake." Min-ho raised his eyes, meeting Ji-ah's intense stare, the same fire he remembered from years ago. For a brief moment, time seemed to rewind. He recalled the determined young intern who was never afraid to challenge him, the same woman now standing before him, ready to confront him once again. "The decision has already been made," he said, his voice as cold as ever. "You can contest it all you want, but it won't change anything." Ji-ah took a step forward, her eyes blazing. "I'm not the kind of person who accepts injustice, and I know that you too are aware that this wasn't just a business decision." Min-ho leaned forward slightly, his fingers intertwining atop the desk. "And what are you suggesting? That it was personal?" She crossed her arms, unwavering. "If it wasn't, then why was it my team that was let go? Why was I specifically chosen? Is there something you don't want to admit, Mr. Kang?" The silence between them stretched on. Their locked gazes formed an invisible battlefield, where unspoken words carried old secrets and unresolved resentments. Min-ho could see that Ji-ah would not back down, but he couldn't yield either not without putting his own reputation at stake. At last, he stood up and walked over to the window, watching the city below. "If you want a chance to prove me wrong, then do it. But I warn you." Song Ji-ah, he turned back to face her, a challenging glint in his eyes. "If you fail, you will never have another opportunity at this company again." She smirked slightly, confidence flickering in her gaze. "So, it's a challenge? I accept." At that moment, Min-ho realized he was dealing with a force he couldn't control. The game had begun, and for the first time he wasn't certain who would emerge victorious. Ji-ah turned to leave, but before crossing the door, she paused. "One last thing, Mr. Kang. When I prove you wrong, I hope you'll have the courage to admit it publicly." Min-ho maintained his composed expression, but something in his posture betrayed an unexpected discomfort. He wasn't used to being challenged like this. "Don't worry, Ji-ah. If you succeed, I won't have a choice but to admit it." She nodded and walked out of the room, leaving behind a thoughtful Min-ho. The battle between them had only just begun. Song Ji-ah spent the following days preparing for the challenge that Kang Min-ho had imposed on her. Every sleepless night was a reminder of how much she had to prove not just to him, but to herself. Yet, at the same time, her reunion with Min-ho stirred something within her that she tried to ignore, the memories of an unfinished past. That morning, Ji-ah walked into Kang Corporation with the same confidence as always, but inside she felt the weight of every step. As she entered the conference room, she found Min-ho already seated, reviewing documents. He didn't even lift his gaze when she arrived. "You're late," he remarked coldly. She crossed her arms, meeting his stare. "I'm not late. You just arrived too early." Min-ho closed the folder and looked at her for the first time that morning. There was something different about her, something he couldn't ignore. He leaned forward slightly. "Don't be mistaken, Ji-ah. I'm not going to make this easy for you." She smirked, defiant. "I wouldn't expect anything less." Silence settled between them, charged with something deeper than mere rivalry. Ji-ah broke eye contact, grabbing her folder and focusing on her presentation. But Min-ho continued to watch her. "Do you really think you can prove me wrong?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. She lifted her gaze, locking eyes with the man who had once meant something more to her. "I won't just prove it, Min-ho. I'll make you admit it in front of everyone." He smiled, not just any smile, but one that revealed he knew that no matter who won this game, they would both walk away marked by it. Ji-ah picked up the remote and turned on the large presentation screen. As detailed graphs illuminated the room, she spoke with unwavering confidence. "The data shows that the layoffs were premature. Productivity has dropped by 15% since my team was dismissed. Furthermore, the new hires will take at least 6 months to reach the same efficiency level as those who were let go." Min-ho crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "That's an interesting fact, but costs have also decreased." Ji-ah didn't back down. "In the short term, yes, but in the long run, the loss of efficiency and increased need for rework will drive expenses higher. If you want an efficient company, you can't cut the best people without a strategy." Min-ho's gaze narrowed. He knew she was right, but admitting it was another matter entirely. The air between them carried a subtle tension, a silent battle between logic and pride. Finally, he let out a sigh and leaned back in his chair. "Let's see if your projections hold up. You have 3 months to prove that this decision was a mistake." Ji-ah smiled slightly. "That's all I need." As she left the room, she could still feel Min-ho's gaze lingering on her. This challenge wasn't just professional. It was a battle that involved much more than just numbers, and they both knew it. In the days that followed, Song Ji-ah threw herself completely into the challenge. She worked tirelessly, analyzing reports, reorganizing processes, and proving every point she had made in the meeting. But no matter how much she tried to focus solely on the professional aspect, Kang Min-ho remained a constant obstacle. Their encounters were inevitable. In meetings, their gazes clashed like an unspoken war. In the hallways of the company, the tension between them became palpable. Min-ho never backed down, and Ji-ah had no intention of yielding. On a rainy evening, Min-ho unexpectedly showed up at the division where she was working. His commanding presence caused the other employees to slowly retreat, leaving them alone. "You're pushing yourself too hard," he remarked, crossing his arms as he observed her. Ji-ah didn't even lift her eyes from the papers. "Someone has to fix the mistakes in this company." Min-ho smirked slightly. "And you think you can do that alone?" She finally met his gaze. "I'd rather try than accept a wrong decision." For a moment, they studied each other, engaging in a silent battle. Min-ho stepped closer, resting one hand on her desk. "Be careful, Ji-ah. The corporate world is a game of appearances. Sometimes, the ones who think they're winning have already lost without realizing it." Her eyes narrowed. "And what exactly does that mean?" Min-ho leaned in slightly, his voice low but filled with meaning. "It means you may need to look beyond the numbers. The truth isn't always in the spreadsheets." A shiver ran down Ji-ah's spine. For a brief moment, she wondered if Min-ho was truly testing her skills, or if there was something much bigger at play. That same night, as she reviewed documents in the silence of her apartment, Ji-ah stumbled upon an inconsistency. Some figures in old transactions didn't add up. She frowned, realizing that the layoffs and the company's restructuring might be linked to something far more significant than she had initially thought. The next day, she confronted Min-ho in the company's parking lot. "You knew about this, didn't you?" She held the documents tightly, her gaze sharp. Min-ho glanced at the papers, then at Ji-ah. His expression remained unreadable. "Maybe I knew some things, but what do you plan to do now that you have this information?" She clenched her fists. "Find out the whole truth, even if it means bringing everything around you down." He smiled, but it wasn't a smirk of defiance. It was something more complex, as if he had expected this all along. As if he knew that, from this moment on, there was no turning back for either of them. A sala de conferências ficou em silêncio. Os olhos dos membros do conselho alternavam entre Ji-ah e os documentos espalhados sobre a mesa. A tensão era quase palpável. Seu pai, sentado no centro, observava-a com um olhar duro e calculista, enquanto Kang Min-ho, do outro lado da sala, mantinha-se impassível. Mas Ji-ah conhecia aquele olhar. Ele estava analisando cada movimento dela. "Você tem noção do que está fazendo, Ji-ah?" A voz do presidente Song ecoou pelo ambiente. Ela manteve a postura firme. "Tenho. E sei exatamente onde isso vai chegar." O diretor financeiro pegou os documentos, folheando-os com expressão preocupada. "Se isso for verdade..." "É verdade", Ji-ah interrompeu. "Cada transação suspeita, cada acordo obscuro. Estão todos registrados aí." Seu pai recostou-se na cadeira, tamborilando os dedos na mesa. "E o que você quer com isso? Uma revolta? Quer ver esta empresa desmoronar?" Ji-ah respirou fundo. "Eu quero mudança. Quero que a Kang Corporation pare de ser um tabuleiro de manipulação para poucos e comece a respeitar as pessoas que fazem parte dela." Min-ho, que estivera calado o tempo todo, finalmente falou. "Você sabe que isso vai ter consequências?" Ji-ah. Ela virou-se para ele, os olhos faiscando. "Sei, mas estou disposta a enfrentar todas elas." Os membros do conselho trocavam olhares incertos. Ji-ah sabia que não seria fácil, mas já havia dado o primeiro passo. O destino daquela empresa estava prestes a mudar, e ela não voltaria atrás. Min-ho a observava com uma expressão que ela não conseguia decifrar. Algo entre respeito e outra coisa que ele tentava esconder. Mas Ji-ah não tinha tempo para analisar sentimentos agora. Ainda havia muito a ser feito. Nos dias seguintes, a tensão dentro da Kang Corporation cresceu exponencialmente. A repercussão das denúncias de Ji-ah ecoou pelos corredores. E o conselho se dividia entre aqueles que apoiavam uma mudança e os que preferiam manter as coisas como estavam. Min-ho manteve-se distante, mas atento. Ele observava Ji-ah enfrentar cada reunião com coragem, desafiar diretores e ganhar apoio de setores que antes temiam represálias. O que ele não esperava era que a coragem dela o faria rever suas próprias escolhas. Em uma noite silenciosa, Min-ho foi até a sala de Ji-ah, onde ela trabalhava incansavelmente. Ele parou na porta, observando-a por um momento antes de se aproximar. "Você não vai parar, vai?" Ele perguntou, sua voz mais baixa do que o normal. Ji-ah ergueu os olhos, cansada, mas determinada. "Se eu parar agora, tudo o que fiz terá sido em vão." Ele suspirou e passou a mão pelos cabelos. "O conselho está em caos. E você está na mira de pessoas que fariam qualquer coisa para impedir essa mudança." Ji-ah fechou um arquivo e se levantou, cruzando os braços. "Você está preocupado comigo, Min-ho?" Ele hesitou. Então, finalmente disse, "Estou." Ela o estudou por um longo momento. "Então, de que lado você está?" Min-ho deu um passo para perto dela. "Do lado certo." E, com aquelas palavras, Ji-ah soube que algo havia mudado. O jogo estava prestes a tomar um rumo definitivo. E Min-ho finalmente escolheu o seu lado. Chapter 6. The Last Goodbye, or the New Beginning. The board of directors was gathered for a final decision. Ji-ah's revelations had shaken the very foundations of Kang Corporation, leaving no room for doubt. Heads would roll, and her father, President Song, was about to face justice for years of manipulation and corruption within the company. Ji-ah entered the conference room with a firm posture. She knew this moment would define her future and that of many others. Min-ho was already inside, standing beside a few directors who had switched sides and now supported the company's transformation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ji-ah began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "the time has come to put an end to this cycle of mistakes and start anew." Her father remained silent. For the first time, he had no cards left to play. His once rigid expression now reflected only silent acceptance. The board voted. By an overwhelming majority, the previous administration was removed, and a new leadership would take control of Kang Corporation. Ji-ah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had won. But at what cost? As she stepped out of the meeting, she found Min-ho waiting in the hallway. He looked at her with a mixture of pride and melancholy. "You did it," he said. She offered a faint smile. "We did it?" Min-ho averted his gaze for a moment, as if gathering the strength to say something. "What will you do now?" Ji-ah sighed. "Maybe I need some time to understand what I really want." He nodded, respecting her decision. "Whatever you choose, I'll always be rooting for you." They looked at each other in silence, both aware that this was a defining moment, a farewell filled with meaning, a silent new beginning. Ji-ah took a step back and smiled. "See you soon, Min-ho." He returned the smile, knowing that, regardless of what the future held, this chapter of their lives had come to a close in the best way possible. In the days that followed, Ji-ah distanced herself from the corporate world. Traveling became her way of rediscovering herself, searching for answers she had yet to define. She spent weeks away from the city, far from skyscrapers and corporate intrigues. Meanwhile, Min-ho stepped into his new role within the company. He restructured operations, brought in new allies, and for the first time felt that he was leading Kang Corporation with integrity. But something was missing, something he couldn't ignore. A month later, on a cold morning, Ji-ah returned to Seoul. She felt different, stronger, more certain, and there was only one person she needed to see. As she stepped into Kang Corporation, her heart pounded. Min-ho was on the rooftop terrace, as if he had known she would return. He turned slowly, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity Ji-ah would never forget. "You came back," he said, a half-smile forming on his lips. Ji-ah took a deep breath and smiled. "I came back." And in that moment, they both knew the future was not a goodbye, but a new beginning.
You're my eternity.